Hey, it's Anthony Meisner with Land Title. Came to bring you your first to know update for the month. Let's dive right in. If you look at the average sales price, things have been holding fairly steady. 1.3% increase over this time last year. It's about $15,000 difference. So not a ton on that front. The median flat, right? So that all being said, I would assume that that's a really good thing in a tough market like we're in right now. You look at the townhouse condo market, we are experiencing a very dynamic change here. We're just not selling a ton of that lower end product or median product. We're really seeing more luxury stuff in the condo townhouse market sell, and you're seeing that reflected in that median sales price. This is not just a appreciation in the market sort of context. So we really need to dive into this one more. If you have questions on condos, don't forget to call me. Always happy to share more data that might help support it. But this tells the story. If you look at the price per square foot in townhouses, you're seeing a huge drop there, which tells us prices may be sliding a little bit in the condo townhouse market, where single family homes pretty stable, right? So stability. Boulder County is pretty good about that with its, gold standard in single family homes and its high prices. Now, if we look at supply of inventory tells the story, right? We have 30% more inventory than this time last year, 1,550 units on the market. That's more than we had any time throughout the year. We're in this really large increasing inventory environment, mainly because new listings coming to market hit 527, 14% more than this time last year. But this is our high since I have recorded information to look at from 09 on to present. This could potentially be the high of new activity for listings in this county ever, right? Because over the 2022 numbers, over last year's numbers, we've seen this huge rise in seller appetite because people have been sitting on the sidelines for so long. That coupled with a little bit of an increase in demand looks pretty good, right? It looks like we get a lot under contract, but when you have nearly double the amount of homes coming on the market as you're getting under contract, that tends to lead to that rise in inventory, which is 4.4 months of inventory at this point. 4.4 months in NAR sense would be a balanced market, but what you feel here in the localized market is it feels much more buyer favored, right? And you can see that throughout, kind of all of the information. 489 under contracts, though, is a really good number, right? I think the one thing we need to reiterate to clients is it may not be a terrible time to list homes, but we do have to price them appropriately, and we do have to put our best foot forward because it looks like those homes are selling. Now, are we going to hit the peaks of the 2022 numbers? We may not quite be there yet. I definitely hear stories of people that are taking less than they paid for it in 2022. But other than that, it could still be a really good time, right? Stable real estate prices, good real estate environment. This is a great time to buy a home as well because you actually finally have something to look at. You finally have something to choose from. And before everybody slides back to market, if interest rates come down, you're really still in a very advantageous position to negotiate hard as a buyer. Now, you can see it here, right? We're still up a little bit as far as our days in MLS. 39 days in MLS is 21% above last year, but it's only a week. So it's taking about a week longer to go under contract, but the list to sale price is 0.5% below, 0.6% less than this time last year at 98.4. And being that this is supposed to be sort of the peak of the season for this type of stuff, you have a lot more negotiating power as a buyer. So sellers, beware. This also doesn't even include price concessions, and we're seeing so many more price concessions for much larger dollar volumes than we saw before. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was showing traffic. With more inventory, sometimes that really means a reduction in showing traffic. So showings per listing are down 4%, but more listings, there's 30% more listings out there. So you're actually experiencing better showing traffic than I would expect. That could lead to, buyers looking at more houses. It could lead to the buyers that are out there, making decisions a little bit faster because you can see it's taking, 11 and a half showings to go under contract. But that could be 2 to 3 months of showings, which is why it's taking so much longer to get a house under contract and sold. So the showing traffic is indicative of what's coming down the pike. So if you want to look at future casting or forecasting of any kind, the showing traffic is probably your best indication. But keep in mind, inventory is on the rise and buyers are still hanging in there, right? We're still buying houses. There's not a ton of fallout. So we're all kind of just getting through this together. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. This is Anthony at Land Title. Catch you next time.